Merry Christmas, everybody, and welcome to the final episode of God of War 2018. I am the Linkzilla, and, well, I honestly cannot believe that we are already here, folks. You basically build up a game in your mind over several years. You're in conflict with yourself on whether or not you're going to like it. Do I play it? Do I not? And, well, the day finally comes where not only have you played it, but you finished it. And now it's over. Everything is said and done, and now all that's left to see is the finale. But before I get to that, I just want to basically go back and correct a mistake, because I honestly thought that I had 100%ed everything by the point that I basically left off the previous episode before filming the finale, before the fight with Baldur, where I went back and did the remaining Muspelheim challenges, all that remaining stuff that I did. As it turns out, there were two more things that I had to do. As you guys were aware, there was one one legendary chest that was in Tyr's temple, basically like around this section of the temple, that you had to burn through with the Blades of Chaos. But, as it turns out, there were two other locations that had legendary chests. One was over here on the Isle of Death, which also had to be burned through with the blades, and over here was at, Beery's storeroom, also had to be burned with the blades. And I managed to get some really good runic attacks from them, or at least for one. I'm pretty sure the Iron Cove had some armor that I had long since outgrew. But in regards to the weapons, I think that let's check it out. I got Rage of the Titans. Yeah, let the Rage of the Titans fuel your blades, Kratos. It's not exactly 100% the best. I think I do like Prometheus' Flame better, but it really makes me wish that I had remembered that that was there, so I could have used this and experimented with it. It's really only a... So, it feels like it really could have been something, so... But anyways... There's really not much else to say about it, because here I am at the end of the game. As you can see, we're over here at Thamur's corpse. We've basically completed Midgard 100%. Gotten everything that we need to. So, like I said, I basically went back and I did the final boss again, and this time I basically, I feel like I gave Baldur a little bit more of a chance, and it actually made the fight a whole lot more enjoyable, because the simple fact is, at this point in the game, Baldur doesn't stand a chance against you, especially if you're using your weapons on him. So I basically made it an effort to actually fight him hand-to-hand combat with nothing but my bare fists. Don't get me wrong, Kratos did use his weapons at times, mostly during the cutscenes, but for me, it was a combination of punching and using the shield. I did use my runic attacks on him occasionally, but that was mostly when he was coming at me with elemental force, and I figured that as long as he's charged up with the elements like that, I might as well use the opposing element to try and basically clash against him. It made for a much more enjoyable fight, because it actually came close to where, basically, if I hadn't realized that I was letting my guard down a little bit too much, Baldur probably would have mopped the floor with me. But it still ended the same way. Baldur is now dead, and Freya now hates us because, well, we killed her son. So now, Freya is basically in the position that Kratos was all those years ago, so who knows? I mean, Freya currently hates Odin, but she was married to him, and Baldur was his son just as much as he was hers, so there's a chance that for God of War Ragnarok, they could put aside their petty grievances and unite against Kratos. And that would just be sad, because this would just be another example of Kratos, basically the allies that he once had, turning against him. Except in this situation, there might be a case, because Guys, I'm just gonna say it. The final battle with Baldur really wasn't all that satisfying because I really think that they went a little bit too far in making us sympathize with Baldur when they really should have pushed Baldur to the point of no return. It really should have been with I think it's ultimately the fact that Freya makes the decision to allow Baldur to kill her in order to give him peace. I mean, that's good for the storytelling and all, but it doesn't leave us satisfied at Baldur being defeated and being killed. I really would have liked it if Kratos was desperate to stop Baldur and save her, but it's like I said, they used the mistletoe too early in the fight. Baldur, Kratos has literally killed the gods of Olympus. It gets to the point where you're thinking Kratos can literally kill anything at this point. So the only way to actually step it up for Kratos is to give him something that he literally can't kill because it can't feel pain. So honestly, we should have lost this fight. It should have been like what Baldur said back at the beginning of the game. No matter how much more powerful we got, eventually Kratos' body should have began to give out on him because he simply cannot keep up. He's being exhausted over the course of the fight, whereas Baldur doesn't even feel fatigue at all. And eventually, Kratos fatigues, Baldur separates him from his weapons and gets him pinned and is basically got us trapped and is keeping us alive because he needs us to get to Jotunheim for him. But then he moves on Freya. Atreus comes in and tries to protect her and save her, only to be tossed aside as well. His bow and his arrows, they're all basically scattered and he can't reach them. But the clasp of his quiver comes undone, and he sees the mistletoe arrowhead. It's the one piece of weaponry that he's got left, so in order to defend Freya, he rushes in and stabs Baldur with it, and that not only breaks the curse, but it kills him, because it's poisonous. It kills him, and now that is how Baldur should have been defeated. He should have been this nigh all-powerful thing, but the smallest thing was able to do it, and best of all, it was Atreus who could do it. Because, I don't know about you guys, but have you guys basically questioned how Kratos is able to kill gods? I mean, the franchise has been largely inconsistent, but as far as I'm concerned, when it came to killing Chiron and Persephone back in Chains of Olympus, he had to use a weapon that was on par, that was powerful enough to kill gods, the Gauntlet of Zeus. Now, some versions of Greek mythology have the Furies, which is the earliest point in the franchise, as gods. I don't think that they qualify as gods. I think that they are monsters that are on a godlike level, but I still think that they can be defeated and killed. But if not, you could basically make the argument that, one, Kratos had the eyes of the Oracle, which could break through their illusions and thus inhibit their powers. Two, he had other specific weapons, the Amulet of Ouroboros, and the Oathkeeper Stone, which seem to be tailor-made to fighting against them, so that gives him a bit of an edge. But not only that, he does have divine weapons in the form of the Blades of Chaos, weapons given to him by Ares. Those things, let's not sleep on them. This game shows that they are indeed very powerful, to the point where we get them midway into the game, and they are on par with a nearly fully powered-up Leviathan axe. So, but anyways, the point is that Kratos, even the games have a plausible excuse for why Kratos is able to kill who he is able to kill, the gods in this universe, and then after that moment, ever since he opened Pandora's box and obtained the power of hope, that is where the true power to destroy gods has come from. The idea of hope is that you could overcome tyrants. But Kratos gave up that power. unless he still has a fraction of that power within himself, you might make then I don't think he should be able to kill Baldur. I mean, you might be able to make the case that maybe Kratos does have the power of hope, in that he gave Baldur a chance and had the hope that Baldur would choose to walk away. But Baldur gave up that chance, and now Kratos had to do what he had to do, but still, I honestly don't think that Kratos should have the power to do that. But the mistletoe would have the power to do it. So, I'm sorry that I'm starting off this episode complaining, but there probably isn't going to be much action in this episode. It's probably just going to be the last few cutscenes. The one last thing that I wanted to talk about was that I feel like Baldur getting his sensation back, it really should have happened moments before he died, because the fact that he can feel something and chooses to stay and fight us, that's stupid, because sure, he's excited about the fact that he can feel pain again, but he should know who he's up against at this point, and it should scare him. He should feel vulnerable and exposed, because his trump card for dealing with us has now it's now been taken off the table. So I really think that Baldur would be so excited about the fact that he can feel again that he wouldn't want to pick a fight. He'd probably return to Asgard and immediately start drinking and feasting and whoring as much as he could, because one way or another, either Odin is going to kill him for failing, or sick Thor on him to do it, or Odin is going to force him to go back to Midgard and go after Kratos, who is then going to kill him. So, you might as well smoke him while you got him. I mean, I hate to keep bringing up this comparison, because it really should have been like Pirates of the Caribbean at the end of the climax, when Jack shoots Barbossa, but then Will drops the coins into the chest with the blood offering. It's at that point that the curse is lifted, but Barbossa's wound now takes effect. The blood begins to rush out of his chest, and you can see it in his face. He is relieved to actually feel something after 10 years. He's so relieved. You can see it in his face. He's smiling as he looks at Jack, and he says, "I feel..." But then suddenly, the realization of what he feels comes over him, and the relief on his face melts away to a look of horror as he realizes he feels cold. He feels the warmth of his body. He just got the warmth of his body back, and now he feels it slipping away again as he is taken by the cold embrace of death. And then he dies. It should have been like that, with the curse being freed and the tattoos glowing and the runes fading away. Baldur says, "I feel the snow." And then the poison overtakes him and he dies, with the mistletoe having freed him, but also being his downfall. Because that's honestly the only way out of this. By making it to where Baldur had the curse lifted, where he wasn't killed by the mistletoe, it gives the story an option to not end tragically. But the problem is, the story has to end tragically so that we can, I don't know, get some kind of satisfaction from Baldur. The fact that he chooses to stay behind and fight instead of basically being elated at his newfound freedom, something that he thought was never going to happen for him again, well, and maybe it's just the fan fiction writer in me, but I honestly kind of wish that maybe, if it had to end that way, maybe Kratos could have restrained Baldur. Maybe could have broken his arms or something and told him, "I'm not going to let you kill Freya, because your quest for revenge will only destroy yourself. We have to be better than this." And then he could give Balder to Freya as a prisoner. Let her take him into her custody, because he can't go back to Asgard. Odin will probably kill him for his failure, or sick Thor on him. But she also can't let him out of her sight because he'll try to kill her. Maybe a few years of being restrained and being held captive by Freya could honestly have done Balder some good, because the way that Balder's story becomes really sympathetic at this point in the game, you kind of want to see Balder get some sort of redemption. You kind of want to see him and Kratos becoming allies, because Kratos sees himself in Balder. He's an angry, tattooed young man who is obsessed with revenge. All he can think about is getting back at his mother for what she did to him. The only difference is what Freya actually did, she did because she genuinely believed would be for his own good, whereas what Zeus did to him, to Kratos, he only did that for his own good, thinking that it was not only going to save his life, but preserve Olympus and preserve his rule, his grip on power. So I guess I just kind of wanted to see a God of War game where we actually got a happy ending. Kind of like where, I don't know, God of War Ascension nearly left us until Orcos had to show up and reveal, my mother's made me your oath keeper, meaning that your debt to the God of War still stands. Kill me and free yourself, and then you will finally be free. I really wish the dialogue of that game was better. I admit, God of War Ascension is kind of the black sheep of the series, but the story, I think, is really good. It's actually better than Chains of Olympus, which is the real low point of the series. I just wish the dialogue was much better written, much tighter, you know? But anyways, I think that I basically ranted enough about Balder. Let's finish off this game.
I don't understand. I know saving her was the right thing, but she seemed all evil at the end.
Not evil. You killed her son, lad. Her son. The death of a child is not something a parent gets over easily.
But he was gonna kill her.
She would have died to see him live. Only a parent can understand.
So you'd let me kill you?
If it meant you would live. Yes.
Look, there was no easy choice. For anybody, brother. But I think we can all agree you did the right thing. The world's a better place with Freya in it. Just give her time, lads. She'll come around.
That's...
Back to Tyr's temple, then. One last time.
Aye. Jotunheim awaits.
That's what I like to believe. We've seen...
Why did Baldur say we cost him?
Odin must have convinced him that following you to Jotunheim would bring his cure. Lies, I'm sure.
Why did mistletoe break the spell?
Vanir magic is powerful, but its rules are slippery and elusive. I'm sure it makes sense if you're a witch. Oh, but it's also bloody tragic. Baldur was the greatest gift Odin granted Freya, the one thing she treasured from their marriage. She only hoped to spare him pain and spare herself loss. But such impulses can lead good parents to make terribly stupid decisions.
Yep. But that's what I like to believe, that Freya is more reasonable. She knows. She basically... Who am I kidding? We've seen throughout the game that Freya is a reasonable character, so maybe if we do give her time and space, she will eventually come to forgive us. But then, Baldur is her son. It's not like we killed a friend of hers or something. But the worst part about it is that Freya knows who Kratos is. And now she has seen that he has killed someone that she cares about. So now, every single stereotype that has plagued the myth of the Ghost of Sparta, she now sees all of them as the reality of the situation. That Kratos is an unstoppable god killer who needs to finally be stopped. They're all locked. It looks like we're taking the long way around. Damn dwarves breaking everything. Wait, we can use them. The question is, do I actually want to use them, or do I want to admire the scenery? Because who knows, we might actually get stories. Atreus now knows the truth about Kratos' past and what he's done, or at least a very abridged version of it. He's probably going to have a whole lot more questions. The thing about it is that you gotta wonder what Freya was doing the entire time, why she cursed Baldur the way that she did. She didn't see it as a curse, she saw it as a blessing, it was a spell. But I think I can figure out why, because I'll talk about the original myth in a moment, but the way that this game has been setting it up, it seems like this game is making Odin into a kind of mob boss. The All-Father is basically kind of conducting business like he would a mafia, with Thor being his enforcer, his attack dog, the Luca Brasi to the All-Father's godfather. Anyway, the idea behind it is that Freya basically knew what her marriage to Odin was. It was a sham. Sure, they basically had some good times in the beginning, and he did try to make her happy, but the simple fact is that she probably knew that eventually she and Odin would have a falling out, and Baldur would be a potential weakness, a potential pressure point that Odin could exploit in order to use her, to manipulate her, to abuse her. So she cast the spell on Baldur when she knew their marriage was coming to an end, so that he would be protected from Odin. She probably did it to keep Odin from killing him because, well, let's just say it, the cycle. It's like this whole thing with the whole Greek thing is that in order to prevent the cycle from continuing, fathers will kill their sons in order to obtain power. And from the way that this game describes it, Odin doesn't really care about his children. He sees Thor as basically like this attack dog that he sicks on the giants. And who knows how he basically felt about Baldur. So, I feel like with Odin, his obsession with power and his obsession with control and getting to Jotunheim, he's willing to consider even his own children to be expendable. But I gotta admit, there are a few things about this game that haven't yet satisfied me, because in the original myth, she cast the spell on Baldur specifically to protect him from Loki, who was jealous of how loved Baldur was by all the other gods. So the question is, where the heck is Loki? Where is Loki in this game? Seriously, I expected Loki to have shown up by this point and start whispering in Kratos' ear, especially because Loki is apparently the father of Jormungandr. Loki is actually the parent that sires the monsters that cause Ragnarok. He also gives birth to Odin's six-legged horse, but that's a story and a half there. I mean, boy, you know a lot more about this realm than I do. Tell me, where the fuck is Loki? Where's Loki, boy? Tell me, where is Loki? Do you know where Loki is? Do you know who he is? You know I could find Loki? I need to talk to him about something. It's not big, it's little. No. So, how could someone as so important to Norse mythology as Loki not make an appearance in this game? I mean, I was a bit disappointed to basically learn that Thor wasn't going to actually feature in this game, but that was back before I realized that, oh, they're making a sequel? Good, so this game will be about building Thor up, and then we finally get to meet him in the sequel. Kind of like how they did with the Gods of Olympus. Sure, they were technically in the game, but you only saw them as faces in the wall, but you actually get to see more of them in the later God of War games, so that kind of evens out. I mean, I feel like there are so many things that the game hasn't yet explained, like how the heck Kratos even got to Midgard to begin with. I mean, personally, I really think that he's just in Norway because the Norse world with the Vikings and all basically span from the Isles of the UK all the way to up to Norway and Finland, I think. So I really think that he's just in that particular region, and after what happened in Greece, Kratos just got on a boat and just sailed north as far as he could until he found land again. I honestly don't think that any of this takes place in separate dimensions. I think that the gods, in their respective pantheons, literally walled off their corners of the world and pretended, yep, this is the entire universe and we run it. Nobody sets foot inside or outside this area. But once those walls came crashing down with the destruction of Olympus, Kratos was free to literally travel the world and see it for what it actually is, and found that he honestly didn't destroy as much as he thought. Sorry, I'm getting a text. Anyways, but one thing that I do want to know is the origins of the name Atreus. We don't know why this kid is named Atreus, because, honestly, I have expected Kratos to name his son Phobos. Nope, not Phobos, Deimos. You know, after his brother, because that would honestly show how much he cared about his brother and how much he missed him, and the fact that it shows that Kratos still has a lingering tie to his humanity. But who knows, maybe naming the kid naming him Deimos would have been far too painful. Anyway, let's finish our journey. You better have something to say to me, kid. Is that ice? No, it's just the reflection. And,
Mimir, how'd you come to be in these lands?
Lad, there comes a time in every man's life when he changes his name and heads north to make a new start.
See?
If you live long enough to do this many times over, you might end up as far north as this place. By the time I arrived, I already knew Odin by his reputation, and so I set to demonstrate my worth by coming to him with something I knew he'd value. A mystic well of knowledge. Or rather, I should say, a well of water laced with enough mystic mushrooms to make a god see visions. Oh, he was rightly impressed.
He got him high.
Can't say for sure what he saw that led him to try gouging out his own eyes, but I managed to restrain him before he finished the job.
Did he only do half a job?
Then I persuaded him it has been his sacrifice made for an even higher form of sight to be bestowed. Blah, de blah, de blah, de blah. I used to think he never caught on, but the day he took my eye, I realised he had never been fooled. He knew I'd outwitted him, called the lesson wisdom, and hired me to make sure from then on I was on his side. And for a long, long time I truly was. Doesn't mean he didn't hold a grudge.
Oh my god. Mimir tricked Odin into gouging out his own eye, and he was gonna do the other one until Mimir stopped him. But that's why Mimir had only one eye. Odin was punishing him, getting back at him for that. There's really no point in collecting anything, but what could I say? I can't fight my instincts. But yeah, you see what Mimir said? You change your name and you go far north. You run. You run as far as you can until you get to a place where no one knows your name. Because that's the only way that you can outrun what you've done. At least that's how it was in the time before the internet. Now someone who screws up their life online can literally be stalked and harassed by people who want to ruin them, to the point where they will literally leak information to any jobs they apply for and make sure that they don't actually get the job. And they can even basically send messages to the places that they're trying to live and basically get them evicted. I'm not basically saying that I defend the people that I'm basically describing here, because they did what they did. But the simple fact is that if you keep cornering a man, you don't give him room to change. It's basically like if you keep treating someone like a criminal, how can they possibly grow to be anything other than a criminal? You got one more story in ya, Mimir? How about you, kid? Any questions you want to ask? Can't believe we're about to go to Jotunheim for real.
What's that down there?
My friends, we're going to Jotunheim. This isn't like popping down to Earth where you summon a bit of lightning and they summon and they...
The waterfall. It's still beautiful.
Yes, it is. This isn't like popping down to Earth where you summon a bit of lightning and they worship you as a god. This is Jotunheim.
Mimir, I still don't get why you ever wanted to work for Odin.
Back then, I was young enough to still be ambitious. The Aesir gods were as powerful a force as I'd come across, but they clearly lacked for strategy, focus, and sage counsel. All this could I faithfully provide. And so, a stranger from a far-off island found himself with Odin's ear, trusted as he trusted no one but himself. And with that kind of power, laddie, I must confess, there are perks.
Yeah, but he's Odin.
I never claimed to be perfect, laddie, only clever. And often too clever by half.
So what'd you do to get Odin so mad at you?
Well, for a long time my job was to enable Odin, and I was fucking excellent at it. Gradually, as I grew more to care about people and the world, my job became to contain him, to protect him from himself. By serving peace, I served his interests as well, that's the truth. But he saw it as disloyalty. No longer trusting my motives, but not wishing to part with my brain or tongue, he bound me to a tree and adopted a new pastime of casual torture.
Well, I'm glad we came along to cut off your head.
Aye, lad. Lucky break that was.
Lucky break, that one. But yeah, you see, I basically mentioned that what is considered Midgard spans...
There's something down there.
It basically spans from Norway and Finland all the way to the British Isles. So, and Mimir said that he came from a far-off island, and he's been speaking with a Scottish accent this entire time. He's from Scotland. Let's see. Kratos is the stoic and tough one. Atreus is the lithe and arrow-shooting one. And Freya, well, she's the girl. What exactly are you, Mimir? I'm Scottish! I'm Scottish. That's probably like one of my favorite quotes from Power Rangers. It's such a random line, but it is delivered so passionately. It's great. I'm Scottish! Well, this is it. One last chat with the dwarves. Also, I really didn't notice it, or I didn't comment on it before, but there have been times throughout the game where Kratos and Atreus, well, Kratos has his arm around Atreus a whole lot more. and it shows basically like the growth of their characters in the game, because I think that like during that last few bits of cutscenes, Kratos and Atreus, well, Kratos has like been open to be closer to him, and you know, I think that Kratos is finally at that point where he's ready to honestly, well, I guess we'll just have to see how the game ends. Plus the fact that, literally speaking, when basically, like, after they killed Modi, I think, no, was it Magni? They killed Magni first, and then basically, like, Atreus starts talking about, and eventually they'll kill Baldur together. Kratos says, no, you leave Baldur to me. So, but, like, at the end, basically, like, Kratos and Atreus work together to fight Baldur off and beat him. And, of course, the thing that I gotta comment on is that Atreus' choice of words after Kratos has beaten Baldur into submission. He's beaten. He's no longer a threat. That's what Kratos said about Modi right before Atreus killed him. So, it shows that little shit that he is, Atreus actually learned. He's learned a good lesson. I just wish Baldur could have learned that lesson too. Wish us luck, guys. We're going to Jotunheim. It's really not surprising that their shop is basically in all the realms, because this temple exists in all the realms simultaneously.
Here we go! I can't believe we're gonna see the giants.
Well, if things work according to plan.
Mother's ashes.
Go ahead and lock in Jotunheim and we'll be on our way. Probably.
Have faith, Head. We gotta do a slow dramatic walk, Morty. They love the slow dramatic walk. Why do you keep calling me Morty? Shut up, Morty. Vanaheim. Jotunheim. This is it. This is where Forrestal cashed in. Okay, Mimir, what do we do now?
Boy, ahead. Get ready.
Oh, right. Got it. Let's hope this doesn't cause you to explode or anything.
Oh, hadn't considered that. Maybe we should talk about this a bit
Too
more.
late.
Nah, I'm sure you'll be fine. Ready?
That's unpleasant!
Hang on, Mimir. You're okay.
Now, boy.
The fact that he let Atreus do this. That he let Atreus hold the head.
We must be close.
Well, what are we waiting for? Think it's far?
We will see.
It's the highest peak in all the realms, boy. We're probably gonna have a bit of a walk. At least we don't have to open the door.
A word, please, before we continue. Listen, the last thing you two need up there's a decomposing heat ruining the
Heat?
moment. Why not I wait for you here? This is between you and the boy.
True. But if someone were to
My
fight...
lady sips soft, perfect sloshers. You done did it.
Sorry. We had to see this.
Oh, no. No, 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 no. Fine, damn it. Fine.
Watch the head till we return.
Sindri!
I can do this. No,
Don't
no,
look
I
at the
can't.
wound.
Okay.
Ready.
Thanks,
Come.
guys. That was a nice scene, and I like it. And I like the fact that basically Brock and Sindri came back one last time and They're going to look after Mimir for us. And I like the fact that Mimir basically said, this is a moment for you and the boy. And he's basically letting them have this moment of privacy so that they can honor Faye's memory. Though I wonder if he is apprehensive about setting foot here, considering that he might not be welcome. You gotta basically take things in the God of War franchise that people will always have an interior motive. But I do love the fact that the way he said heed instead of head, that's a Scottish thing.
Well, I have plans for you.
Do hurry back, please.
Don't flatter yourself, good boy.
At least there's a staircase, huh? So this is where the giants sleep. But where's the stag that's supposed to be watching the gate? By the way, how is your quiver clasp? I mean, you kind of... The arrowhead was supposed to be holding it together. What's holding it together now? I mean, did you take the arrowhead back and repair it? Did you use another arrowhead? That is a bright light. Atreus! Son! Holy shit! Ah! My ray just blinded me! Am I supposed to be doing something? Holy shit. The bridge.
Look! We're on the giant's fingers. I can see the highest peak ahead. Right over there.
We're on the fingers already?
We did it.
We did.
No offense, but this seems too easy. Like, that blank white screen, that was basically the game developers running out of time, so decided, you know what, let's skip the entire thing. Is he undoing? He's undoing.
What are you doing?
I have nothing more to hide.
I thought that he was going to say, I'm healing. This is the first good look we've gotten
go
at his
now?
arms
We're so
since
close.
it happened.
Boy,
I knew it. He trusts you now.
carry her.
Don't start crying. You'll rust yourself again. I have nothing more to hide. I hear clinking up ahead. They're not going to have a shop here. So this is Jotunheim. There's nothing listed here. There's no achievements to find, nothing to get. I honestly can't believe that all this time we've been using a compass given to us by Freya.
boy?
It's nothing. I just thought I'd hear voices by now.
Be careful, this bridge is slanted.
Hello? Anybody here?
The giants. It's so quiet.
What is this place?
They must have all come through here when they left Midgard. What was left of them.
Why carve all these faces?
What if this is all of the giants that got out of Midgard alive? Not really many at all. Odin and Thor, ruining everything for everybody.
I really wonder how much of this is interpretation or how much of this is accurate. The dream of Midgard. Midgard was a dream of what could be if we shared and collaborated. Jotnar, Aesir, Vanir, Elf, Dwarf, and mortals most of all. It was beautiful, but not everyone is capable of sharing. Some believe anything uncontrolled is savage and threatening, and so we were mocked and tricked and used and then slaughtered. Odin and his tribe were barred from our realm, but it was not enough. The wrath of Thor and his terrible hammer have thinned our number in Midgard to the brink of ruin. There is no option but to withdraw, while yet any live to do so. Odin and Thor would have killed all the giants if they could, and they got away with everything. 'Cause right now I'm basically like thinking, is this basically pulling a God of War 2? Because God of War 2 really went out of its way to make the Olympian gods look bad and make the Titans look better by comparison. But the Titans were just as much monsters as the Olympian gods were. So I'm just basically saying that in the myths, the giants are meant to represent, like, the forces of nature, I think. As in, whenever there's an avalanche, whenever there's an earthquake, whenever something unforeseen and uncontrollable in nature happens and it kills you, a giant caused it. And Thor fighting against these giants was meant to be like the ultimate protection that mankind had against them. But even still, even though Thor could basically kill many giants, the whole idea is that there are some forces of nature that not even Thor himself can overcome. Like that giant, the Ogre King that had the Midgard serpent disguised as a pet cat. He also tries to get Thor to drink from a horn of ale that somehow never empties, no matter how much Thor drinks from it, because that horn is actually connected to the ocean, and Thor cannot drink the ocean. He then has Thor wrestle his grandmother, an elderly woman, but she easily overpowers Thor and pins him because she's not a real woman. She is the personification of old age, something that not even Thor can overcome.
Where are they now?
The giants came back home so they could survive. But I'm not sure they did.
Surely there must be some left. Some had to have escaped the culling. They basically said that the giants are sleeping and that the stag is supposed to watch over them.
Huh. Who's the guardian?
The stag, remember? The guardian, that's the stag. The guardian returns. We foresee Midgard's fate. Overrun. A second hell. Neither Odin nor his dead may reach Jotunheim. The ways must be shut. It is made by those who are dead, and the dead keep it. The ways must be shut. The serpent and the guardian remained. They alone shall keep our hope. But doom befalls the indestructible. Only then shall the guardian return. When doom befalls the indestructible, the guardian, the serpent and the guardian. So that's Jormungandr, obviously, the serpent. The indestructible. Why do I have a feeling that that's referring to Baldur? Until then, we await a better world. One without fear, without greed, without war. We wait for deliverance and justice. We wait for a champion. We will wait for word that the gods grow good. Hope that world gets here soon. I wouldn't hold your breath. The one thing that's currently standing in the way of world peace is people. The simple fact is there will always be ignorance and want. And from them, all of the evils of the world are born. I have a feeling that the Indestructible is talking about Baldur, and we have made it to Jotunheim. I don't think that they're talking about Kratos, though. So I'm really interested to see what the finale of the game has to say about the boy. I can't attack here. I can't use my weapons.
I should feel them, but I don't. This place is dead. What happened to them? Why'd Mom send us here?
One question is answered and two more take its place.
It's okay, kid. I'm sure that they're all somewhere. They're in hiding. They're waiting. Maybe they're waiting for a new type of divinity. A new kind of god. The gods that choose to be better. I have a feeling that the plot twist is coming, that it's going to be revealed that Faye was actually from Jotunheim, and I'm not controlling anymore. And so they wanted to, she wanted them to take her home.
Wait! Father! Something's happening.
You've got the magic touch, kid. Murals. This place is coming alive. The axe. What does it say?
It's your axe. It's Mother. Look. She's arguing with a bunch of giants. She knew giants? That's us.
Oh, Kratos!
The first time we met the world serpent. But how?
Prophecy.
And our fight with Baldur. But that just happened. Wait. They knew everything that was going to happen.
We've been
The dragon in the mountain. The stone mason.
We've been moving according to someone else's story.
All these drawings. This is our story.
No.
Your
This is your story.
But what does it all mean?
That I was not the only parent with secrets.
You didn't know.
Of course not.
She was a giant.
Her mom was a giantess. Giggity.
I'm a giant.
You're a giant.
Why didn't she tell us?
I guess Kratos is the only kind of guy that can
She
fill
sent
that
us
job
here,
opening.
knowing we would find this.
But why not just tell us the
Because
truth?
Your mother would have had good reasons.
Because we wouldn't have believed then, and now we do.
Baldur was never sent to find me. He was tracking her all along, not knowing she was only ashes.
If she had a plan for us, I trust it. Whatever it is. Besides, she hasn't been wrong yet. Come on. We're so close to the end now.
Kratos?
Yes. Yes, we are.
Kratos. Okay, no. You can't... You gotta give me a better look at that. Okay, from what I saw, it looked like it didn't... It wasn't really the best angle because it's showing Kratos from his right side and not his left. You clearly know that his left side is, well, see for yourself. His left side is always the much more recognizable. He was facing the right side, but it looked like him. He had a beard, he had the white skin, and he looked like he was dying. And it looked like he was dying in Atreus' arms. I don't know if that means that Atreus kills him, or if Atreus will be there when he eventually does die. Could it be the cycle? Thamur's corpse. They fight the dragon. And there's Magni and Modi, I think. Yeah. Because they're fighting... There's Thamur's corpse beneath them. And there's them sailing the boat through Helheim. So all this time, Faye was a giantess. The indestructible. The doom of the indestructible. Baldur. The Guardian returns. And this is his story. And Kratos, well, I guess he's just a footnote then. And there's Freya. You know, honestly, as much as I really like the reveal that what all this revealed, I can't help but feel sorry for Kratos in some way, because now I feel like his entire relationship with Faye has now been thrown into suspect, because when you get down to it, if this was prophesized a long time ago and she knew all of this, then their entire relationship could be tainted. She knew that she was waiting for a marked warrior from a far-off land. So, when she met Kratos, did she actually fall in love with him, genuinely? Or was she just trying to ensure that this prophecy came to pass? Kratos is up there. It looks like he's wearing a shirt. Looks like Santa Claus. And there's Faye with Atreus. But that looks like the Midgard serpent. But I don't think that that's them meeting him for the first time. I think that's them talking to him. Wait. Nah, that's not Faye. That's Freya. So that's not the Midgard serpent. That's Charlie, the turtle. They meet Freya. Yeah, because Freya's the one wearing red. And the one wearing gold, that's Faye. It's weird, though. I half expected that at any given moment they were going to reveal that Faye and Freya were actually sisters. But what is that up there? We're missing a whole lot of the story. Look. Wolves. And the boy walks alone. No. I don't believe it. Even if old age does eventually grip him, or maybe Kratos finds that one fight that overwhelms him and finally does him in, there's one thing that I know will be a universal constant. Because it's something that you have to accept whenever you have a character this popular, whether they be James Bond or Godzilla. The simple fact is, regardless of what happens, Kratos will live.
Look.
Yep.
It's Mother's. She was here. She saw every step we took before we took it. Like she was always with us. Watching over us. Leading us home. Let's finish it.
That explains how she was able to do this all this time. She traveled between the realms and set everything up. There's a giant's corpse down there. And look at all the other peaks. Corpses. This is a graveyard. Well, that explains how she got to Muspelheim and Niflheim and all the other places. And it explains how she was able to do all this and without Kratos noticing. She didn't need to get out of the house because she probably had this prepared for thousands of years. To the highest peak in all the realms. There's another one. And another. It's amazing what you can see by just looking off into the background. Stuff that they probably figure that the average player probably wouldn't even notice. Because I have a sense that there are people who would just rush to the top to immediately get this done. Who would stop and look around. Faye. So Faye was a giant, and this kid is a giant. So I guess the giants are basically on the same levels as gods. They should be. The giants are basically titans, and the titans, well, the titans are gods. I mean, technically, describing the Olympians as gods is a misnomer. Their official title is Olympian, but Olympian is literally just the new divinity. The primordials were gods, the titans were gods, and the Olympians are gods. So, I guess the giants are gods, the Vanir are gods, and the Aesir are gods. He's putting a hand on his shoulder. This is it, boy. He helped him up. Do it. To a journey's end.
Father.
No. We do it together. Son.
Is he smiling? Kratos is smiling. I feel it. We do it together, son. Ashes. Golden. It's weird. When my mom died, we had her cremated too. And it inspired me to write a story similar. The last giant returns home.
Goodbye, Faye.
I love you, Mom. The giants. They really are all gone.
No.
There's nothing for
one
us here.
left.
Come.
So, I get that Mother was a giant, which makes me part giant and part god.
And part mortal.
Right. I guess there's just one thing I don't understand. My name on the wall.
Name?
The giants called me
What?
Loki?
Loki. That's the name your mother wanted for you when you were born. She must have called you that to her people.
But why?
A question for another day. Let us go home.
Okay, hold it. Hold the phone. Hold the friggin' phone. Let's just back it up, okay? Beep, beep, beep. Back it up. The kid is Loki? Okay, so I need to wrap my head around that for a second. Loki. The kid is Loki. Tricky little bastard, isn't he? I mean, in hindsight, some of it kind of makes sense, but now it's just causing so many more questions. So, here's basically how it breaks down. A lot of the MCU, their depiction of Norse mythology has it all wrong because they needed to put Loki on the same level as his rival, Thor. So they made Loki and Thor into brothers. Step-brothers, mind you. Because, well, Loki was adopted. In the actual myths, however, Loki plays many different roles. I've heard some people say that Loki, even though he is a trickster god, he's actually a servant of Thor, who sometimes serves Thor's will, but sometimes works to circumvent Thor. But the one thing that I'm positive is the actual depiction of Loki is that I think that it's actually Loki and Odin who are brothers. So this kid, he's kid. This kid being Loki, how is that going to work? How is that going to factor into the rest of the mythology? I mean, what? Are they going to somehow reveal that Odin is actually Kratos' son too? My god, what a mindfuck that would be. Because I basically said, like, I half expected, like, what if, like, Atreus, what if this kid was born while Kratos was off being, like, the god of war? What if this kid was, like, the result of an affair that Kratos had with Faye a long time ago, and now he's back to basically kind of fill in the missing years? Well, what if, as it turns out, what if the character who was the response, who was the creation of that dalliance, what if it turned out that he was Odin? I mean, there's no way that they're gonna make Odin into being Kratos' son, because that would just be ridiculous, right? Because that would mean, oh my god, the cycle continues. If Odin actually is Atreus' brother, and he actually is Kratos' son, then that means it doesn't have to be Atreus that kills Kratos. It might just be Odin. Holy shit. I mean, like I said, it sort of pieces together because I feel like Loki basically is a very intelligent god. He learns things because having information gives him power. It allows him to be a better trickster. You know what I'm saying? Although the kid, despite the fact that he teleports around when I'm least expecting it, he doesn't really do anything trickster god worthy. But then again, I mean, I don't think that that's something that that Marvel made up. I honestly think that, like, Loki being the trickster god is something that honestly is a part of Norse mythology, that he really does dick with people. Because that whole thing with Balder, like, he's the one who chose the one thing that would seal Balder's doom, and he killed him. And I guess that's why Atreus is the one who's given the mistletoe arrows, and why it's Atreus, why it's when Balder punches Atreus that it's ultimately how the mistletoe gets into his system and how that's revealed. But that's another reason why I say that it should have been Atreus taking the arrowhead and stabbing him, killing him dead. It should have been him from the get-go, because now, with the new context of the kid being Loki, that would have fit the myth a whole lot better. Okay, so I'm taking in, like, everything that we've learned ever since we got to Jotunheim. Some of it I like, some of it I really don't like. Finding out that all this was a preordained plan set up by your mom/late wife, and now you basically have the suspicion that what if none of this was actually real? What if she was just using Kratos to ensure that the Guardian would be born in order to ensure that the prophecy would come to fruition? And what I also don't like is the fact that Kratos claims that Balder was never after him, that he was actually looking for Faye, and he assumed that Kratos was the giant that they were looking for. He probably assumed that Kratos was the giant who was prophesized to return to Jotunheim. He probably figured out that it was actually the kid partway through. I mean, it makes sense for the story, but I kind of don't like it. I kind of like the interpretation that Balder knew who Kratos was from Greece, the myth of the ghost of Sparta. And he intentionally showed up thinking that Kratos could be the one who actually killed him. But then again, after a while, whenever it suddenly became about getting to Jotunheim, I sort of picked up on the fact that that maybe was not what Baldur, and more specifically what Odin, was after. I mean, I suspect that Baldur had his own motivations at some point, but I really do think that I think that basically, like, Baldur is under orders from Odin, but I really think that he has his own agenda at some point, because he's only doing it for Odin so that he can find a cure for the Vanir magic that's keeping him cursed. But I think that he ultimately thought that Kratos might be the one who was actually able to break through to him, based on his reputation alone. And I figured that maybe it's because they knew Kratos' reputation, they figured all we need to do is give this guy some space, leave him alone, and he'll do the dirty work for us. Because this guy is tenacious. He will stop at nothing until he gets what he wants or gets to where he wants. So, but seriously, the kid is Loki, and Faye wanted to name him that? I mean, who is Faye? I mean, she's Atreus' mother, and now Loki's mother. How does she fit into the story? Because I don't know much about Loki's mom. In fact, the only thing that I actually know about Loki is what I've learned from the MCU, which we know is inaccurate, but the frost giants in the movie, they say that the name is Laufey. Laufey? Maybe. I don't know. The kid is Loki? Well then, why the heck did Kratos name him Atreus? There has to be a reason. I mean, it's basically clear from a storytelling standpoint that the only reason why the kid has been called Atreus throughout the game is because the Santa Monica Studios wanted the reveal of him being Loki to be this big thing, but still. And wait a second. This opens up far too many questions. It's like Kratos said, one question is asked and is then replaced with two. Because, like I said, Loki is the father of all the giants that cause Ragnarok. I mean, he gives birth to a six-legged horse. Yeah, Greek mythology... Wait, Norse mythology is just as weird as the Greek mythology. So, he gives birth to a six-legged horse, and then Odin uses that as his steed, but he also gives birth to the Midgard serpent, and to Fenrir, the giant wolf that eventually eats Odin. So, now I'm looking at this kid far more conspicuously, because, I mean... Did he have a pet snake that we didn't know about? Can snakes even survive in this environment? I mean, they basically explained that the Midgard serpent has traveled through time, so maybe he just comes from a time where... Maybe at this point in time he hasn't been born yet, but he comes from a time where he has been born, so... Maybe that's why he's so friendly to us, why he wanted to help out, because he recognizes his dad and consequently his grandpa. But that's another thing. It's that I knew that the kid was going to be important. However, that's why I've been so apprehensive to the fact that Kratos is his biological father, because he's the father of fucking Loki, and he might be the father of Odin? That's too messy. That's muddling the mythologies a bit too much. I mean, it's basically... Because, literally speaking, Odin is the king of the Aesir gods, and Loki is the god who starts Ragnarok. It's literally basically trying to make the argument that without Kratos, none of this would have happened. As in, these mythologies literally depended on Kratos to get where he is. And I mean, it would be like if we ever got to, like, say, a point where they... I mean, I basically mentioned it earlier in the playthrough. What if when we eventually get to Egypt, as it turns out, most of the Egyptian gods are actually the surviving Greek gods in disguise? That would be another example of the Egyptian mythology never actually existing if it weren't for Kratos doing what he did. I mean, what's next? Is Kratos suddenly gonna end up in the Middle East and somehow be the father of Yahweh? That's something that we'll have to talk about during the credits, because this video has gone on for long enough. There are other things that I want to do, things that I want to try. Mother's Ashes, complete. Trophy earned, last wish. Return to Tyr's temple. So there's a temple door all the way down there. I gotta admit, I kind of half expected that when her ashes scattered, it would activate some kind of spell, and all these giants would start waking up. Oh well. By the way, I was right.
Guess it all makes sense now. Why she want to end up here?
The
You was
credits.
kind? But did she know it was going to be like this here? Is this what she wanted us to see? Did she want us to tell the people, or keep it a secret?
I do not know.
So what should we do?
I trust you to decide that.
I trust you to decide that. The credits are rolling and I'm still playing. Yumi Yang and Kenneth T. Troy. Anyway, I was right. That vision that Kratos has when they're in Alfheim and he's in the light tower, that bridge where he hears Faye singing, it was the bridge that led us up here. Narrative. Corey Barlog. It really is amazing how many people are needed to tell a good story. I mean, this is a good story. Maybe it's not the best story. Maybe it's not, like, perfect. But it is good. It's...
So, why'd you want to name me Atreus? I know it can't be for a god.
No. He was a soldier. A Spartan.
The Great Warrior?
All Spartans are great warriors. We trained from birth. Our lives were discipline, duty, battle, and death. Life was grim, and we greeted it grimly. But Atreus of Sparta was unlike the rest of us. He wore a smile even in the worst of times. He was happy. He inspired us to hope that though we were machines of war, yet there was humanity in us. Goodness. When the day came for him to lay down his life in battle, his sacrifice saved countless others and turned the tide in our favor. I carried him home on his shield and buried him with all the honors of Spartan custom. His memory was a comfort in dark times.
Wow, you actually told a good story. Mimir missed it.
Dang it. For a moment there, I thought that it was going to be something else, because hearing that Kratos named Atreus after a Spartan warrior, that was... It immediately brought images to my mind, because who else could it be? We don't know much about Kratos' past other than the flashbacks that we've been given before his time with Ares and the gods. But there was one character that it could have been, this Atreus, and I honestly thought that if it was, then after all these years we would have finally learned his name. My lord, Kratos, another city is ready to fall. Soon all will know the glory of Sparta. Yep, when he started telling this story, I thought it was going to be the Spartan warrior from Ghost of Sparta and Chains of Olympus. Somehow hearing that it's actually someone from Kratos' time before he got involved with any divinity, it's kind of disappointing. I guess it kind of shows that Kratos did have a life before we got involved. He had his own army. He had 2 armies. He had 2 armies. He carried him home on his shield, and he buried him with all the Spartan customs. He must have really respected him, and he said that he always had a smile on his face. Atreus gave him hope, and that's the real reason why he named the kid that, because the kid... I can't select Atreus. Can't go to his armor. Oh well. The kid gives Kratos hope. Careful, boy. That explains it. Kratos could probably fix that. So that's the glowing archway that we came through that had that blinding white light that immediately teleported us up the slopes. We can't even see Tyr's temple here. Together. Just keep walking, just keep walking. Yeah, it took me a while to figure out that I was supposed to be holding down the forward button during that entire time in that light. Goodbye, Faye.
I understand if you want to go home, but maybe helping people is part of why Mom sent us out here, too. I mean, what would Atreus of Sparta do?
And what would Loki do?
Huh. That's a weird name. I'm glad we went with yours.
Okay, so a little thought just popped into my head. You guys remember when Atreus learns that he's a god from Kratos' side, and then immediately starts acting like a little shit? I've heard that a lot of people criticize this part of the game as it comes out of nowhere, and it does feel like it comes out of nowhere, and it feels like it gets resolved a bit too quickly. What if that wasn't really Atreus who we were talking to? Like, what if the kid actually is split in 2? What if the boy that has accompanied us all this time on our journey...
There's something up there.
Up where? What are you looking at, boy? What if... I'm basically saying, like, what if there, even if there is something up there, I can't interact with it. I see the branches of the tree. The boy that's accompanied us on our journey, that's Atreus. But when he learns that he's a god and starts acting like a little shit, what if that's Loki? Because, I mean, Loki kind of comes off as a little shit, don't you think? Mimir!
Lads, am I glad to see you. I believe I've reached my limit for dwarven charm.
What happened, Mimir?
They took an uncomfortable number of measurements and then proceeded to bicker about the weather.
Where do you want us to take you?
How about the warm confines of anywhere bloody else?
100% complete. New Game Plus allows you to start a new game while maintaining your equipment, XP, hack silver, and purchased items. New Game Plus can be accessed anytime within the game's options menu. Huh. Cool. That's something to look into, and it'll be something else that I can do. Are we sure that Niflheim is the land of fog? Because, I mean, we could see a whole lot more. The kid said that we could travel around helping people. And I think that's what you're supposed to do in the post-game after you beat the campaign. The problem is that everything that you can do in the post-game, I've already done. I've beaten all the Valkyries. I have done all the favor quests, and I freed all the dragons. There's nothing else that I can do. I've even found all the treasures. I've gotten all the armor sets that I want to, and so I wonder. Wait, read all the Jotnar shrines? How have I not done this? Because I thought I expected one to be there in... I expected the final one to be in Jotunheim. Oh well, at least I have a list here of the ones that I have found. Maybe we'll find it along the way. I've literally done everything that I can do with the game. So, let's go home. There are a few things that I want to do before we head back there, because I'm certain that going back there is how and where the game will end. You realize what we did here, boy?
Before we return to Midgard, I should warn you. More time has passed than you likely realize. The snowfall that began when you slew Baldur, it's become something else. The stuff of omens.
Omens for the coming of winter.
Not just any winter, but a great winter to span
The
3 summers.
3-year-long winter.
And when it's done, Ragnarok begins.
Ragnarok. From snow.
Aye, snow. Lots more snow. And then the end of the bloody world. In that approximate order.
Another prophecy.
No, brother. Prophecy doesn't expect this for 100 more winters at least. You've changed something. Prophecy didn't count on you.
So now Kratos is a wild card. So killing Baldur has triggered Ragnarok early. The long winter that spans 3 years. I really wish that they hadn't flat out told us. I wish that they'd let us see for ourselves. And I thought that it was just snowing because...
I'm telling you, it's Fimbulvetre. I can feel it in my scrotum. This is the big one.
Stop saying that. Oh, you're making me very nervous. It was bound to snow sooner or later.
That ain't just snow and you know it. It's the end times.
How dare you make me the voice of reason?
Guys?
Just discussing the weather. Bit of a cold snap lately.
What he means is, Fimbulvetr's upon us, boys. The winter to end all winters. I can feel it in my screw.
Yeah. We heard.
So if you're heading home, try to keep moving, and also to not die.
Or if you're not heading home, same advice. Let's get to it. Whatever.
Alright, let's see how bad it could possibly be. Okay, things look a little bit more blue, and there are definitely snow particles in the air. Jormungandr is still gone. Seriously, where is he now? Is he back here snacking on Thamer's corpse? I want to take the long and scenic route home. Especially because we've got to get to the river pass. I just hate the fact that it's not listed there. Because if the game is still going, and the credits have stopped, then, well, clearly we're able to do something. Maybe there's more lines of dialogue that we can find. In fact, I actually wonder what it would be like if we brought Mimir back to his corpse at the top of the mountain. Oh well, that's something that I'll probably check out on my own. That's the statue, so...
If I'm not mistaken, we've yet to discuss the tale of the giant Bergelmir.
Oh yeah, I remember his shrine. It looked happier than the other ones, mostly.
It begins in an ocean of blood.
Finally, a story worth hearing.
If you remember, Ymir, the first giant, was fatally stabbed by Odin. It's in his blood our story starts. Ymir's magical guts poured out in a torrent so violent it threatened to flood all of creation. The Jotnar were unprepared, as the very last of them were washed away in the endless tide. Not just Ymir, but all of giant kind faced extinction. And so would Odin's victory have been complete. But Ymir's kind did not all perish that day. Staying afloat in the hollowed husk of a tree, the frost giant Bergelmir endured, as did his lady wife. For weeks they sailed, until finally they came upon a new land. They called it Jotunheim. And there they would start anew. As father and mother they would multiply exceedingly, and as king and queen they worked to make Jotunheim a land where giants would know no master but themselves. Bergelmir never sought revenge for Odin's slaughter. His vengeance was to live and prosper. He died at peace, a legion of his kin to mourn him. He would ever be known as Bergelmir the Beloved.
So...
Bergelmir the Beloved. Huh. I've never heard a story end that way. Not...
Bergelmir and his queen survived the flood of Ymir's blood and founded Jotunheim, They did not seek revenge, except to live and see his kind prosper. Bergelmir the Beloved. A happy ending.
That's true anyway.
If you do, laddie.
So, basically what you're saying is the entire giant race is a bunch of inbreds. Yeah, that's the takeaway that I take from that. So, we're back here. We might as well try. You know, I'm actually kind of surprised. It took Mimir a long time to figure out who Kratos was. He only ever knew him as a tattooed man. But the simple fact is, the ashy white skin, that really should have been Mimir's first clue. I mean, he guesses that Kratos was Greek, probably based on Kratos' attitude, mindset, maybe even his accent. But the white skin, considering how much paler he is than Atreus, and considering that it's clearly not caused by the cold, I'm surprised that, well, who knows, maybe that portion of Kratos' legend hasn't reached this far yet.
Is it a good idea coming back here?
She's probably in there planning your demise, brother.
Or bringing Baldur back to life? Like she did you, Mimir.
Oh, I'm not alive, lad. I'm reanimated, sure. But make no mistake, I'm still quite dead. I'll never be what I once was. She won't want this for her son. Trust me.
That's a relief. Not the part about you being dead, but, you know.
Okay, well, that answers a question that I had, because here I was wondering, well, why doesn't Freya bring Baldur back to life? Well, that answers that. She doesn't actually bring people back to life. She reanimates them, but Mimir, he's actually not alive. He's still dead, which is sad because I was honestly hoping that at some point we'd reunite his head with his body and he'd be whole again. Like, we'd free him from the tree, of course, but he'd be alright, because it seems kind of sad that we have to leave him in a state like this when he's been of such help to us. No prompt. She doesn't want to talk to me. It looks like she's got cobwebs growing here. Well, we tried. At least I got that bit of dialogue. It's a shame, really. Really would like to part from Freya in friendship. Mainly because I want to see her and Kratos get together, but still. After all, third time's the charm, am I right? This is the only thing that I don't like about the open world structure of this game, because this entire area, it's a nexus point. You literally, at this point in the game, you can't go back through Freya's house, and if you come from this direction, you can't go into the woods where we first met her either. So this entire area, it's practically a dead zone. It's a dead end. It honestly feels like this portion of the game is completely separated from everything else in the game. Man, now I feel I feel even worse for Mimir, because now I'm basically thinking that, like, he's stuck like this for good. We can't fix him, meaning that he's never going to be able to eat or drink ever again. I think this is as far as we can go, so let's try it, shall we?
Oh man, the tower ate the Unity Stone, didn't it? I wanted to fly again.
Yes, that's a terrible pity.
Yep, we won't be doing that again. Sorry, kid. You know, I can't help but wonder. Kratos named his son after Atreus the Spartan warrior, so it's clear that he really admired Atreus. I wonder if there were ever any times where Kratos thought of Atreus as a father figure. It really would depend on how old the man was. The sound of crows, but no ravens.
Up there.
I see it, but it's not letting me draw my... There we go. Is this an ancient? I think it is. Soul Devourer. Oh well, one more won't hurt.
Stronger behind you. I got your back.
Employee of the month, this guy.
Done.
I honestly can't believe that we found that soul devourer all the way out here. Makes me wonder how many more encounters there are scattered about. You remember this boy?
Can we get out of this place?
This is where you had your first kill. So, let's basically recap. You've killed monsters. You've assisted in helping me kill a dragon. You've killed a man. And you've killed a god. How does it feel? Probably shouldn't be asking, since I probably shouldn't be encouraging. Dang it, this is where we came in. There's the first Nornir chest that I found.
What's that over there?
Lady, you picked the wrong day. Actually, lady, you did me a favor.
Fire from behind!
Two of them. Is that a third one? There are three of them? Thank you so much for your cooperation. It's a good thing that they popped up when they did.
Aye, give him what for?
It's a good thing that they popped up when they did, because they led me to exactly what I was looking for. What's
Boy.
this?
Sir! I've seen this language before.
Svartalheim sealed. The realm of the dwarves is secured. For a promise of security from the rovers of hell, they have made Asgard's custodian to their borders. Now, the Vanir will have no hope of Svartalheim's aid, thanks to Odin's foresight. The elves remain sufficiently distracted. All plans proceed. The Raven Keeper. Anyways, like I was trying to say, they led me exactly to what I was looking for. The last Lord robe. When I came here the first time, I must have passed right by it and not even noticed.
Here, boy. Another one.
It says his name is Hrungnir. Mother told me about him. A giant warrior made of stone.
Bits of him, yes.
Looks like he was in a pretty big battle. Odin's there, Thor, even the World Serpent.
Well, that's stretching it a bit.
Oh. Thor must have smashed his head apart. See? But look, Hrungnir's body squished him. Idiot.
That part's true at least.
When Thor smashed Hrungnir's head, he collapsed on him. And more, much more than myth, I did it my way. A mighty giant made of frost and stone. Looks like he had a huge fight with Aesir and Vanir gods. He battles Thor, and it looks like they both lose. But, as you guys saw, that was me completing the trophy, The Truth. And I got the final trophy, Father and Son. I honestly think this might be the first time in any game where I have gone for 100% completion and gotten all of the trophies. I did it. Come on, boy. Let's go.
Where to next?
Home. We go home. Looks like I came across another encounter.
That's it. I bet it doesn't.
Considering he was level 8, so did I. Did you hear that? There's something else breathing down here. If you guys are wondering what I'm doing, I'm literally trying to walk all the way back home. Really do wonder what this bubbling cesspit is about, though. Oh well. This path is now overgrown with vines, and this looks like the kind of stone that Kratos could lift up and he and Atreus could get under. It even has phase markings on it. This is the way that we came, and that's the bridge that collapsed. It looks like Freya did this. She's blocking our path, trying to keep us from getting back home. Imagine if Freya ended up being a secret final boss. Well, I guess that means we've got to take the easy way back. Oh well. Come on, my little Loki. Let's go home. I am never going to get used to calling the kid Loki. I mean, sorry, but not sorry. It's just not right. Kind of wish that they'd have questions for Mimir during this section. Things are just too quiet now. As the long winter sets in. Should have gone the regular way. Holy crap, I started recording this at 10, now it's after midnight.
We're finally home. Feels like a lifetime ago.
Bit drafty, maybe. It's a right improvement over having tree bark in your tadger.
Kid, we have been away for a long time. Longer than you know. I started playing this game over a year ago, and, well, things happened. Life got in the way, and it took me until now to get back to it. But I'm glad that I did. This was a fun experience, and now we finally go home. Doesn't look half bad, even though me and Baldur really messed this place up.
Time to rest.
I'm gonna sleep through winter.
Is Kratos really going to? Like, you guys, you realize what this could possibly be? Like, how big this is? Because, well, what... They might not have had this in mind when they thought about this, but this...
Aren't you tired?
Yes. This could be a powerful moment, because what's the one thing that Kratos has wanted to do since we first met him? He's wanted to rest. He's wanted to sleep. And the idea that that now after all these years, he's back, he's got a home now that he can go to. He's got a family. Now Kratos can rest. The fire pit. I see that somebody replaced the rug and closed the trap door. Oh my god, Kratos is actually going to sleep.
Okay, this'll do.
Sleep.
Way ahead of you.
You took off Mimir, right? Kratos sleeps. Years later.
What's that?
The ball!
The kid hasn't grown at all. Thunder. Lightning. You need to fix that roof. the end begins again. So, that was God of War 2018, God of 4, Dad of Boy, and I gotta admit, I wasted the last 4 years not playing this game when I honestly could have. Granted, it wasn't really 4 years, it was more like 3. The game came out in the spring of 2018, but I didn't get it until the Christmas season of that year. So, in fact, I didn't even have a PS4 until at that point. So, I'm gonna be honest, you guys, like, a lot of things were basically making me hesitate when it came to playing this game because I was honestly convinced that I wasn't going to like it. That it was gonna be too different. That after playing through all the original God of War games first, that this one was going to upset me because of how different it was. Plus, this game has a reputation, which I have commented on several times, a reputation that I really don't care for. But I have to admit, in a lot of ways, that reputation is well-deserved. But here's honestly the biggest thing that keeps me from liking this game. There was actually a time where I hesitated on getting this game for myself because that feels like a major commitment. So I figured, maybe I'd ask my brother-in-law if I could borrow the game from him and see if I liked it. As it turns out, by the time I had asked him, he actually had already given his copy of God of War 2018 away. He sold it to GameStop. And why? Because he didn't like it. He loved the story, mind you, and thought that the story really was good, but as far as the game goes, he felt that he didn't really enjoy playing it so much as he enjoyed the story. But the problem is, the story, the game's campaign is like, what, 30 hours long? And who knows, I'm pretty sure that this playthrough has episodes up to the 50s, because I've just been recording, and I haven't been keeping track of actually uploading these things. So, the point of what I'm getting at here is that, well, that made me hesitate, because my brother-in-law, he's a God of War fan like me, so if he's the one who's telling me that he doesn't like this God of War game, what chance does it have with me? So, I was afraid, because as much as I looked forward to this game, and I knew it was going to be different, a lot of things were throwing me off. Like the fact that the camera was constantly fixed behind Kratos' shoulder and didn't give us that kind of a Resident Evil, Devil May Cry, I don't know what type of game it was, that kind of fixed camera angle where they show you wider shots so that you can be fully aware of the arena. And I admit, when I first started playing this, I wasn't adapting. I couldn't really properly adapt to playing the game because I didn't know what I was doing. But finally, when I got a few episodes in, I finally figured out what I was doing, and more importantly, what I was doing wrong. And as the game progressed, as I played it more and more, sure, it frustrated me and it made me angry, but I learned. I adapted. I got better at it. And I gotta admit, playing this game was a whole lot of fun. And I honestly didn't want it to come to an end. I wanted there to be more that I could do before I went and fought with Baldur. And I'm actually disappointed that I didn't do all the stuff that I could have done before I finished Baldur off. Heck, I'm actually kind of disappointed that I basically had one more Lord Robe to find. And that's the story of the Spartan, the bitch, and the Lord Robes. Probably should have told that joke back when I actually found the damn thing. But anyways, so how does this compare? I've said it many times, like, during my playthrough, there were times where I wasn't even going to consider this a God of War game, but instead a game that happens to star the main protagonist of God of War, Kratos. But how do I feel about that now? I honestly say that my opinion has shifted, and there is no excuse. I have to recognize this and validate it as a God of War game and recognize that it has worth for the entire franchise. Like I said, this game does things that I really didn't like, that I wish it had done differently, and I still believe that. I honestly wish that there were some things that this game had done better, that were more in line with what I thought, and then there are things that I wish this game just didn't do at all, like the fact that Kratos is the biological father of Loki. I'm just basically saying that this plot point with the kid being Loki would actually be better if Kratos wasn't his actual dad, if Kratos was his stepfather, if Kratos just happened to walk into Faye's life as she's raising her infant son and decide, yeah, I can do this. I can be what this kid needs me to be. Because then you don't have to get into muddy territories about how Kratos is literally he literally factors into the apocalypse of Norse mythology, the end of the world. And Mimir has even said that Ragnarok and life happens on a cycle that the world serpent has lived through, that he has been through Ragnarok before and goes back in time every single time, and Odin is aware of this and is constantly trying to change it. However, because of Kratos' existence, his interference here, something has changed. Ragnarok is now starting hundreds of years earlier than it's supposed to, and I think that this is the one Ragnarok that's actually going to take. Sean Shamel? Sean Shamel added his voice to this game? Let me guess, he was Brock. I would honestly be excited about Sean Shamel if he wasn't such a douchebag. But anyways, I'm not saying that this is the best God of War game, because I honestly don't believe that it is. Because to me, despite its lack of polish and the quality of life features that would come in later entries in the God of War franchise, I still think that God of War 1 is the best game in the franchise, with God of War 3 following a close second. This one probably takes third, in my opinion, and it beats out Ghost of Sparta purely because I like basically because, like, a lot of things. Well, the way that I would basically rank the games is that, well, God of War Betrayal is off the list because I've never actually played it. And unless I can figure out some kind of emulator, I probably never will. But it's something that I'll have to look into, so God of War Betrayal, it's not on the list, but we'll just consider it an honorable mention. The way that I would list the God of War games, at the bottom, you've got God of War Chains of Olympus. As much as I like all the story involving Calliope and Kratos going to Elysium, and I love playing around with the Gauntlet of Zeus, the simple fact is the story of that game is muddled, and it's the point in which the entire series gets retconned because Kratos isn't acting like his self from the original God of War game. He's acting like the Kratos we see in God of War 2, because in God of War 2, Kratos has a reason to be angry with the gods at their betrayal. In Chains of Olympus, he's only been working for them for 5 years, and he's treating them like they have constantly been betraying him. He literally is yelling at them. He's angry all the time. Literally speaking, Kratos wasn't like that in the original God of War, but God of War 2 changed him to be that. Plus, I will say this to the day I die, as much as I like God of War Chains of Olympus, it seriously needed a rewrite. Because the fact that Kratos killed not just Chiron, but also Persephone, that literally throws the lore of the entire franchise off its head because it diminishes Kratos achieving the impossible by killing Ares in the original God of War. So that's why it's at the bottom of the list. Right above that is God of War 2. I know that God of War 2 is a fan favorite for many. Most consider it their favorite God of War game. It's even my brother's favorite God of War game. And I admit, I do like the quality of life changes that God of War 2 added that improved on the original, but at the same time, the story that it was trying to tell and everything that it did in changing the direction of the series, changing Kratos' character, I really don't like what it did to the franchise overall. The impact that it had was ultimately negative, because I would have rather had the Kratos we had from the first game back in a sequel, instead of seeing Kratos being consumed by his rage again. It's like I said, it feels like every single time in the God of War story, Kratos takes one step forward and 2 steps back. The Kratos that we meet in the first God of War was desperate and broken. We find him at his lowest point, wanting the sweet release of death, only to get his ultimate reward. This reward wasn't what he wanted, but it seemed like the best the gods could do to make up for his 10 years of service. But now, in God of War 2, because they refuse to relieve his nightmares and all the stuff that happens off screen in God of War Ghost of Sparta, he is angry with them. And now he's once again consumed by his rage against them, that he's back to where he was even before he made his deal with Ares. He's back to basically trying to make Sparta the most glorious nation in the world, and worse, now that he's the God of War, he actually has the power to make that happen. And what's even worse is, he's literally acting exactly like the war god he despised. And I just really didn't like the fact that all the characters who initially helped you in the first game, the characters that you treated with respect and reverence, they all turn on you in God of War 2. Look, the biggest problem that I have with God of War 2 is its story, because it was missing a whole lot of crucial information that only gets explained not only after God of War 3, but after Ghost of Sparta comes out. Ghost of Sparta, the game that added in a whole bunch of retcons and tied up a whole lot of loose ends to make God of War 2 make sense. On that note, coming in at number 4 is Ghost of Sparta, because Ghost of Sparta suffers from a lot of the same problems that Chains of Olympus does, but it has the additive bonus of coming after the original God of War, where we see the last lingering threads of the Kratos that we knew from God of War 1 fall away. And the fact that Kratos is now officially the God of War, you can believe him actually being able to kill powerful beings like Aranis, the daughter of Thanatos, and even Thanatos himself. And the fact that as a god, he bears protection against, like, certain magics, like, you know, King Midas's Golden Touch, because Midas's Golden Touch applies to his entire body, and yet Kratos' touch is slinging him over his shoulder and grabbing his arms, so that should have turned Kratos to gold, but it didn't, because he's a god now. But anyways, it also basically showed the fall of Ares, who basically the land is demolishing their statues glorifying Ares in favor of raising monuments to Kratos, and it shows him actually meeting that Spartan warrior who, quite frankly, could have been Atreus of Sparta, and basically showing why Kratos favors this guy so much. That was nice. I liked having the pieces of that guy in the story because it just helped. It helped flesh out the world. And of course, the story elements of Kratos' mother, Callisto, and Kratos' brother, Deimos. Both of them are killed in this game, and Kratos has to bury the last remaining human family members that he has, and that is the game, that is the Olympians basically saying, you have severed your ties to the mortal world, and you are now ready to fully become a god. And this is where Kratos gets fully pissed off as Athena fully awakens his godhood, because he's like, is this all a game to you? The gods are going to pay for this, Athena. You wanted the god of war? You got him. So, Kratos is pissed off because his last remaining family is dead, kept from him by the gods of Olympus. He could have had a future. He could have rebuilt his life after killing Lysandra and Calliope by going to his mother and brother, but he couldn't, because the gods took them from him. And so, holy crap, I completely forgot about Ascension. I would say that Ascension, it's the black sheep of the series, but it's such an amazing spectacle, and it was the one that kicked off the Year of God of War. I would honestly place it above Ghost of Sparta, because despite the fact that Ascension has its narrative problems, I actually like its story a whole lot more, and I think that its story is a bit more solid than Ghost of Sparta's. I just wish that its dialogue was tweaked a little bit. I wish that certain lines of dialogue were changed, and certain other things got left out. But the most important thing about God of War Ascension is everything that the supposed journalists claim that this game is actually was shown in Ghost of Sparta. In God of War Ascension. Everyone is saying that Christopher Judge had to take over the role of Kratos because T.C. Carson couldn't be the calm and gentle Kratos that we see in this game. And to that, I say bollocks. Bollocks and bullshit. Because in God of War Ascension, we see that gentler side of Kratos come out because Kratos still has a lot of humanity. We see him as a very calm man, especially when he is in the illusions that the Furies are creating for him. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that T.C. Carson got to do the motion capture for Kratos in that game, so he was able to fully pour in his emotions into Kratos' performance, even in his softer and more gentle moments. Everyone only ever thinks of Kratos as this guy who yells a lot and kills things, but no. There are times where he is calm, when he is gentle, and when he is, for want of a better term, at peace. That scene right before the final battle where he's about to fight Alecto, where he is basically, he's in the illusion, and he sees Calliope and Lysandra. Calliope is sleeping and Lysandra is standing behind him. All he can do is say, I have been away for far too long. I was honestly going to include that. I was going to make a trailer of me leading up to me playing God of War 2018 for my channel, and it was going to have that line of dialogue because I was going to play it off like it's not just Kratos saying that, it's also me. The Year of God of War stalled, and I never finished it. And now I'm going back to finish it. I didn't do that because, well, playing Luigi's Mansion and Jak and Daxter took up a bit more of my free time, and I didn't really have the freedom to actually sit down and edit a video. So, but anyways, even after Kratos kills the Furies, it shows that he is still very human, because he's capable of forming a friendship with Orkos. That final scene at the end, when Orkos appears outside of Kratos' home in Sparta, he literally shakes Orkos' hand, or grabs his arm in a friendly term, the way he does with Freya in this game, which is, I guess, a traditional Spartan friendly greeting or something. But anyways, it shows that he is capable of having humanity and even remorse. He didn't want to kill Orkos, but Orkos insisted that he had to. Orkos literally puts the blade in his hand and helps him drive it into his stomach. So, I really think that God of War Ascension is a bit underrated. It might not be the best God of War game, but I don't think that it's the worst either. And so, from then on, like I said, this game takes the third spot, God of War 3 takes number 2, but God of War 1 to me will always be the best game. I basically spent the last 20 minutes talking about this. I'll give a video of why God of War 1 is untouchable in my mind. I'll do a video on that at some time later on. But all of that being said, just because this game is not number 1 in my mind doesn't mean that it's not good. Taking the number 3 position is more than I thought that this game would. Heck, I honestly didn't think that this game would even be considered a God of War game by the time I finished it, but nope. The Blades of Chaos bought a lot of goodwill from me, and when I started having fun with the game instead of trying to just, I don't know, do it, I think that basically it changed a whole lot of things, and holy crap, there are a lot of credits here. But anyways, all of that being said, this game still is a bit of a sore spot for me because now it's making me jealous. It's like that meme where you put God of War 2005 up on a board against God of War 2018, and it's like that meme where you say, I do like that I grew up with this, but this is better. And I'm not saying better as in I think that it's, well, it's technically a superior game. Technologically, it blows the original God of War out of the water in visuals. However, the story I think leaves a few things to be desired. I think that God of War 1 tells overall the most solid story of the franchise, and that's ultimately what I'm here for. It's only when the series has to later retcon things in order to have them make sense that story starts to fall apart a bit. But here is basically why I say that I am jealous, because ever since this game came out, people have been saying, oh, look how mature God of War is now. This is the first God of War game that actually has depth and an actual real story. I've literally watched videos of people saying that God of War is just a game about an angry guy called Kratos hacking and slashing at everything, and that there's absolutely no story to it at all. It's like, what game are you playing? Are you skipping cutscenes? Are you talking during cutscenes? Are you just ignoring the cutscenes? What I'm saying is that God of War has had really good stories all throughout the franchise, even before this point. I'm jealous because this game took the story a whole lot more seriously than the other games did and presented it front and center. This game, the gameplay is fun, but I would say that the other God of War games focused more on gameplay, whereas this game, you can tell that the story was so important to them from the get-go, which is why they literally have a difficulty for those who just want to experience the story and not really care about the game. The reason why I'm jealous is because it's not fair. Because the rest of the I know in my heart of hearts that God of War, the entire franchise, has had the storytelling potential that this game showcases. It's just we didn't have either the technology or the patience or the backing of a successful franchise to actually get to that point. But we could have. Honestly, the stories of the old God of War games could be told in this format. Am I saying remake the old God of War games to be like this? Well, not necessarily, because there would need to be a whole lot of changes made to them. But what I am saying is that had the games been given more room to grow, the old God of War games could give us a story that is on this level. And it might actually make people pay attention for once and showcase that Kratos is, well, not what they claimed him to be. That Kratos... that there was always depth and character to Kratos. That his character actually does develop. The problem is that, like I said, Kratos' character development is one step forward and two steps back. Effectively speaking, he suffers from negative character development, because every single time Kratos thinks that he's gotten the upper hand, that he's finally done what he needs to do, someone pulls the rug out from under him. It's like what I said earlier, when I basically said about criminals. Criminals basically have to pay for their crimes, but there comes a point where it stops being justice and starts becoming about revenge, starting to make the criminals suffer for what they did. If you constantly try and make them suffer for it, if you constantly put them in a box where they only ever can be a criminal, then they'll have no room to grow out of being a criminal. And that's what Kratos is. Kratos constantly wanted to move on from being a monster, but the gods of Olympus kept pushing him into a corner where he had no choice but to be a monster. And worse, literally, it's like Kratos said, he is what the gods made him. Zeus brought this to himself. Literally speaking, had they just kept their promise and taken away his nightmares, which according to the novelization they fully had their power to do, they could have literally avoided everything. Kratos would have just simply gone back to his life, finally freed from his PTSD. He'd finally be able to sleep, and Kratos, he would have never began the Greek apocalypse. Zeus, but he opened Pandora's box and Zeus was overcome with fear. So, anyways, the point is that Kratos is a better character before this game. He was a good character even before this game, and I really don't like that people are only now saying that Kratos has developed. This is because he's in an environment where he is allowed to develop. Because nobody here knows Kratos' name. I made the assumption that Baldur knew who he was because I know who Kratos is. And I thought, but as it turns out, the Aesir gods, they don't know. They don't know the truth about Kratos. They don't know who he is, and that's why Modi was so scared when Kratos went all rage mode on him and was able to resist his lightning attack. Who are you? The people here don't know who Kratos is. Mimir didn't even know. The only person who knew for sure who Kratos was Freya. And yet, she still treated him like a human being. She treated him like a person. Kratos is in an environment where he has a fresh start. Nobody knows his name. He's truly free of who he used to be. He has a chance to start over, and that is the freedom that Kratos now has. He doesn't have to be the monster that the Greek gods made him into be. He doesn't have to be the monster that everyone in Greece feared and kept pushing him towards. He doesn't have to be the ghost of Sparta anymore. When Kratos went back for the Blades of Chaos, it was an exciting moment for me, but it was a crushing moment for him, because it made him believe that he will never truly escape his past and what he did. No matter what, like a boomerang, those blades keep coming back to him. However, this time, the chains are not seared to his flesh anymore. The chains do not glow with heat. He chooses them. They are now his weapons. He is no longer a monster fighting for someone else's cause. He fights for his own cause now. He charters his own ship. No one can tell him what to do. The ghost of Kratos might be a monster, but the ghost of Sparta is gone. So, anyways, that's also something that I wanted to mention. You guys notice that the Blades of Chaos in this game, they only glow with fiery energy when Kratos uses them in combat. However, back when we used to use them, in the good old days, whenever Kratos would have them out and ready for combat, they would glow with fire. And I like to think that's because, well, not just the fact that the power of Olympus, where the blades came from, is now broken. It's really the fact that Kratos' rage is finally subsiding. That the blades no longer glow with fire, only glow with fire when Kratos allows them to, because his rage is now a bit more under control. And now, I think the credits are finally coming to an end. Holy crap, more than 30 minutes worth of credits, and I talked throughout the entire thing. So, what else can I say? That was God of War 2018. And I loved it. I'm mad at myself for wasting my time. Present day.
Atreus, are you ready?
Yeah, but I had the weirdest dream. Fimbulvetr was ending, and Thor came for us, here at the house.
It was only a dream.
But it felt different. It felt real. It felt like the future.
Then we will worry about it tomorrow. Today, there are still things we can do. Come.
It's like the Hobbit says, leave tomorrow for when it comes. He's asking Atreus if he's ready. You are ready, boy. It's so weird. I really hate myself for waiting so long to finally play this game. Because I think that it's... What I feel about this game is a lot like what people feel about Breath of the Wild. Something else that's been on my hit list for a while. Something else that I haven't played out of apprehension that maybe I might not like it. Holy crap, we took down all the trees here, didn't we? So, that whole scene with Thor was just a dream that Atreus had. A vision of the future. But anyways, what people feel about Breath of the Wild is that it gave them such a beautiful version of Hyrule that people often say that that's the version of Hyrule that I want to live in. And it was basically like how people feel about Skyrim. There are people who play Skyrim who actually want to live in the world of Skyrim because that's how much they fell in love with that world. And I can understand because I gotta admit, even though this place is now a winter wasteland, I gotta admit, I kind of would like to live in this world too. this world was filled with so much stuff to do, so many things to see, that I honestly didn't want the game to come to an end. And I wanted it to keep going. I wanted to play as much as I could to see how much I could do. And, well, don't get me wrong, when it comes to Zelda games, I don't think I'm going to want to live in the world of Breath of the Wild. To me, it'll always be Termina. I want to live in the land of Termina, regardless of the moon coming down or not. But anyways, so yeah, I do lament the fact that this game, that I slept on it for so long, when I really didn't have to. It just basically goes to show, don't hesitate. Get out of your own way and do something. To measure the meaning can make you delay. It's time you stopped thinking and wasting the day. So, anyways, like I said, it just kind of makes me wish that the stories from the original God of War could be presented the way that this game showed its story. Because, more often than not, the old games just had Kratos. They had Athena as well, but there weren't many characters for Kratos to play off of, for him to interact with, because he was often on his own, going off to parts unknown, to dangerous places where only someone like him could survive. So, in order to actually tell the stories like this game did, you would have to give Kratos companions to go with him. Someone that he could talk to. Someone that he could exchange stories with. Someone that he cared about. Someone who he wasn't going to kill. I honestly didn't think that I would bring up this topic, but it's recently been announced that Amazon is ordering a God of War series to be made. And I am actually pretty apprehensive towards it for a series of reasons. One, it's Amazon who's making the series. Now don't get me wrong, Amazon is capable of making good series, like Invincible, for example. And even The Boys. But, unfortunately, The Boys is actually going downhill rather rapidly, and I honestly think that Season 3 was probably the worst season that we've got yet. But on that note, the reason why I'm really apprehensive is because of Rings of Power. Seriously. Rings of Power is not good, and I honestly cannot help but think that God of War is basically going to suffer the same problems as Rings of Power. They're not going to respect the source material, and, worst off, they're going to disrespect the male characters. You know that it's going to happen. It's going to be an inevitability. Heck, I wouldn't be surprised. Well, we need to talk about the other reason why I'm apprehensive. The main reason why I'm apprehensive is because they've announced that the Amazon God of War series isn't going to focus on the Greek saga. It's going to focus on the Norse saga. Now, I've got thoughts about that, but here's why I'm really apprehensive about it. Because it shows that the people who want to make this series, they're not respecting the actual franchise for what it is. It's like they're trying to ignore the Greek saga. Like they consider the Greek saga to be a gangrenous limb that they've just lopped off, and they've excised it like a tumor, because that part of the series was holding the franchise back. But that series is crucial for understanding Kratos' character, his journey, and his growth. So it goes to and it also goes to show that the reason that they are picking the Norse side of the story is because this is the point in the saga where God of War finally shed its, quote, toxic masculinity and misogyny. I wouldn't be surprised if when we actually get the God of War series, the series ends up mostly being about Freya, or Fae, and Kratos gets turned into some kind of... I'm just basically expecting that the series is literally going to be the emasculation of Kratos. So... Kratos is going to be trying to raise Atreus, and he's literally going to be doing everything wrong, so it's going to be up to Freya to step in to fix it. Now, don't get me wrong, that basically does sort of happen in this game, but it happens with tact and respect. Amazon lacks tact and respect, especially for source material, and especially for source material that it doesn't respect. So... the reason why I don't like that it's starting with the Norse mythology is because it also feels like they're basically disowning the Greek saga, because this is only the point where the God of War franchise, quote, has gotten good. And that's just not true. So... the God of War franchise was always good. It's just, this game has a higher budget and a stronger sense of story than the others did. But that doesn't mean the other stories were worthless, nor should they be ignored. So why did I bring up talking about this? Because I basically lament that the Greek saga didn't get this story treatment what it deserved to. But, as much as I have my convictions that the Amazon series is probably going to be a woke nightmare, a terrible mess, and end up being garbage that gets forgotten and rejected by the fans, and ultimately lied about by the showrunners who are trying to save face, and all the fans are just going to be accused of being racist and sexist when they cast all kinds of of minority characters to play these Nordic characters. Even though I'm confident that all that's going to happen, there is a small chance that it actually could be exactly what I want it to be. Because just because the series is going to focus on the Norse side of things doesn't mean that they're potentially going to ignore or completely disown the Greek saga. Even though I'm confident that they will, there's always a chance that they won't. Because the story could be about Kratos here in Midgard, but it could also basically feature flashbacks to when he was in Greece. How many of you guys have seen the ABC series Once Upon a Time? I admit that I was a fan of the show, and I watched it all but the final season. I gotta admit, the last 2 seasons before the final season really they really got bad, and I just really didn't care anymore. But the point is that series was actually brilliant for how it did things, because you have every single episode, you've got 2 stories. You've got one story that's taking place in the present day, and you have another story that's flashing back to years before that took place in either the Enchanted Forest or many of the other magical dimensions that exist in this world. And they showcase parallel stories with the lesson that is learned in the past often coming back and having consequences for the characters in the future. So, that is what I see could be the potential for Amazon's God of War series. You basically have Kratos and Atreus here in Midgard coming to some kind of obstacle that reminds Kratos of his past. The B plot is flashing back to Kratos' time in Greece, where he learned a lesson that he now has to impart onto Atreus that is relevant to the story. And that way, we can get pieces of Kratos' story in Greece until we finally get the inevitable whole. So, I'm not saying that that is what's going to happen, because I'm almost confident that it's not. But this franchise is and always has been the quest for hope. So, you hold on to hope. It's the last thing that you've got. Hope is why we are here. It's what makes us strong. It is what we fight with when all else is lost. And, because of how much I love this game, I guarantee you that, one way or another, I'm going to get my hands on God of War Ragnarok, and I'm going to play it for this channel. I don't have a PS5, so I'm going to have to get the PS4 version, but I'm confident that it will be worth it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video and this playthrough of God of War. Thank all of you who have stuck with me from the beginning of the year of God of War. I know that I've let you down in the past, but I hope that this makes up for it. I hope that you guys look forward to more content coming from me in the future. And I hope that I can continue to grow my channel in order to deem that all of this is actually worth my time. Because right now, my time is very, very precious, and I just don't have as much of it as I used to, or as much as I would like to. So, I'm going to continue making content for as long as I can, and we might have to wait for God of War Ragnarok. Although if I actually do get it for Christmas tomorrow morning, who knows? I might just immediately dive into playing it as soon as possible. So, I've got more games coming at you. Don't really have... I plan to start some new playthroughs, hopefully, throughout all of 2023. And here's hoping that this next year will be a lot better than 2022. Because, I gotta admit, even though this year started off strong, the fall and the winter have almost killed me. So, I hope that you guys have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Later. There he sits with a pen and a yellow pad. What a handsome lad. That's my boy.